Let's invite some of us, some of you, to invoke a few words of blessing for today's meeting, so we can brace ourselves and fasten our seatbelts for whatever adventure we are invited to take on today together. And for that, I'd like to invite Yamuna. Why not? Oh, yes. No. Oh, yes. I read the oh no in your mind. Oh, yes.
I was just reading a verse in the Bhagavatam, and it says, "We think we have met your goodness by the will of providence, just so that we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of human being." So in sitting here in our own little worlds of Kali Yuga, in our own Kali Yuga minds, may our hearts be open and gentle and willing to explore the Supreme Lord within our hearts, in and around us, right here, right now.
Thank you. And by saying that, you've made the worst age the best age at the same time. Remember, Kali Yuga can be both simultaneously. So here, trying to do our part to be part of the team of goodness. So, welcome you all again. Pranam from Triananda Ashram. I'm very glad to bear witness to your presence today, the gift of your presence and friendship. As I was talking yesterday with a friend, friendship is our real wealth. So we can measure our fortune in terms of those kind hearts that ornament our existence, right? That enhance the value of our own existence by the very fact of their proximity and affection and well-wishing and prayers. So I could dare to say that having all of you, I'm basically multi-billionaire at this point. Though at the same time, as I have no money and I'm totally poor on the other side, but the real wealth is there. So thanks so much for your investment in the relationship. So if you have anything to bring to the table today, any topics, questions, something to share, as usual, you're invited to raise your digital hand. Ideally, activate your camera if possible so we can be as interrelated as we can. And I'm seeing a few hands already, so we'll go by order. And if there is anything else, please feel free to do so. And we are beginning with Chandrika, first raised hand from Hawaii, I assume.
Yes.
Yes,
Hare
Sidler.
Krishna Maharaj. Hawaii and whale season.
Okay.
When my Gurudev came here, he said, "I want to go see my whales." And we all had a whale watch with Narayan Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sharing this because I think it might be helpful for other devotees. Like about a year ago, and also I really wanted to get your read on it, Maharaj. So about a year ago, I got intuitively that I had taken Bodhisattva vows in some lifetime or other. And then, and then I'm looking at like what the vows mean. Like I vow to take birth and suffer for other people's karma until everyone is liberated. And so I'm imagining thousands and thousands of bodhisattvas in the last holdouts of Kali Yuga. No, I'm not going to, it just didn't seem compatible with Gaudiya Vaishnavism and, the desire to go back home, back to Godhead and not linger potentially forever if it's true what Srila Prabhupada said about eternally conditioned souls. So I set about finding out how to, renounce bodhisattva vows, how to reverse it. And so I called the head of the local Dharma center and he said, "You just emphatically state, I renounce my bodhisattva vows." He said, "There's no particular ceremony." And so I did that, and I've since done that with a couple of clients that where I've intuitively got that they took bodhisattva vows, and I think it's pretty common by the time you have a bunch of lifetimes and you're on a spiritual path to at some point have taken Bodhisattva vows. So I wanted to share that and also get your read about that.
Thank you. Very interesting question, and that's a topic I briefly addressed to some degree or another in my fourth book, whenever that's supposed to come. Because again, Bodhisattva, to begin with, for those who do not know, is basically a vow where someone commits himself, herself to remain in samsara, let's put it that way, as long as there are suffering souls, entangled souls, which from our perspective will be forever, because there's not a point that the whole material existence gets emptied and everyone is on the other side of the shore and it's in Golok Vrindavan, because there's unlimited number of souls, right? It's not that there's a limited number, and once we get them on the other side, okay, material creation has nothing else to do. So literally, at least from our perspective, taking a bodhisattva vow literally means I'll remain here forever. And it's a very interesting vow. I mean, if you take it with full awareness of its implications, that takes lots of, not only courage, but lots of love and dedication and compassion, basically, universal compassion. And on one side, we may say, oh, that's okay, that's for the Buddhists, right? Bodhisattva is mostly known in Buddhist circles. And that has nothing to do with our tradition. But actually, we find a few examples in our tradition that are very much Bodhisattva-like. And by this, I'm not saying everyone, therefore, should pray in this way from now onward. But for example, Prahlad Maharaj, in the 7th canto, I'm having here my manuscript just to give the exact reference. And you can go back and 7th canto, 9th chapter, verse 44. Prahlad says, "My dear Lord, I see that many saintly persons seek only their own deliverance. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving behind all these suffering souls." No? Implying, the implication, he's not saying, therefore, I remain here, but that's the implication, right? I don't want to be liberated alone without them. So the implication, the willingness to be there is there. Then when Prahlad Maharaj manifests in Gaur Lila, no wonder he will pray similarly. He appears as Vasudev Datta, who is Prahlad Maharaj in Gaur Lila, and now he will make his bodhisattvahood even more apparent. No? So this is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 15, verses between 160 and 163. And basically, this is a summary of those verses. He says, "When I witness the suffering of living beings, my heart is torn. Therefore, I humbly ask you to transfer the sins of all creatures unto me. Let me endure eternal suffering, accepting the karmic reactions of all beings. Kindly free them from this entangling material existence." Again, he may not be overtly saying bodhisattva, he's saying pass on to me their karma, but it's basically the same thing. Instead of let me accompany them in their own karmic journey, maybe this may be like Bodhisattva 2.0, pass on to me their karmic journey, and I stay by myself enduring it, right? So that's an interesting prayer. And there's one more prayer that we also find in the Bhagavatam from Rantideva, King Rantidev. This is in Bhagavatam 9th canto, chapter 21, verse 12. Just for you to have some reference. Rantideva says, "I do not pray for the mystic's perfection of yoga, nor for liberation from birth and death. I desire only to remain among all beings, taking on their suffering as my own, so that they may be freed from all distress." So again, very bodhisattva-like. And that's right there in the Bhagavatam, okay? I'm not quoting from Buddhist texts or any other sister tradition. Now, that doesn't mean that now you should pray in that same way, but I think the main point is what's behind such prayers, right? What takes someone to pray from that place? And that for me, it's the whole idea about what it means to be liberated, of what it means to attain the spiritual world. All these ideas that sometimes we consider more in terms of being transferred to another planet rather than experiencing a transference, inner transference of our awareness or consciousness. Because I know this quotation, go back home, back to Godhead, but again, it's a line that Prabhupada took from an Anglican priest in India, and the idea was like, we have turned our back to God, we have to turn back to God, right? So it's not about returning to some particular planet with being in the past or something. So turning in the words of Jiva Goswami, is sammukyata. We have been bahirmukha. We have turned our back to God. Now sammukyata. Turn your full face, your full attention to the divine. That basically means the transference we are talking about. That means attaining the spiritual world. That doesn't mean you leave planet Earth, you stay here, you go there. We are talking about inner dimensions of consciousness. So one can have attained Golok Vrindavan in terms of developing the pure love that characterizes that realm, and one can be in this world externally. And from a place of compassion, one can feel inspired to say, I choose to remain here forever. That doesn't necessarily entail a contradiction. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should pray in that way, but some souls could be inspired in that direction, and that's not like apasampradaya or against our tradition, as long as, again, it's coming from a proper place. Now, if I have pure love for Krishna, as we always say, that pure love for Krishna will be extended and expressed in loving everything and everyone, in connection to Krishna. So from that place of loving everyone, some may feel inspired to take a Bodhisattva vow, which I wouldn't say gets in the way of loving Krishna. Again, I'm not here trying to induce any of you to become Bodhisattvas and make you take the vow now live on Zoom. But in one sense, it's an interesting stance, because a Bodhisattva is someone who basically rejects the idea of liberation. I don't care for liberation. And we Gaudiya Vaishnavas say exactly the same thing. I don't care for liberation. Maybe from a slightly different place, but not necessarily that different. And I'm saying this because in principle, we do not care for liberation, but in practice, I see many Gaudiya Vaishnavas caring so much for liberation. Being too concerned about getting out of here, leaving this world, attaining that place, not returning, going back there, however you articulate it, but it's all about liberation. And liberation in that way of understanding it, because that's not the definition of liberation that the Bhagavatam gives. Muktir hitvanyata swarupena vyabhyastitihi. That's the section the Bhagavatam officially defines what's mukti. Mukti according to the Bhagavatam. Hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyabhyastitihi. Yeah, to transcend false designations, anarthas, all this stuff. And swarupena vyabhyastitihi, to be fully situated in our swarup, in our nature and potential. That's mukti. It doesn't mean about an evacuation plan into the afterlife, being transferred through a spaceship into whatever planet. It's about an inner location, inner relocation, inner alignment with who we are and all that we can be. And there you are. You have arrived. Vrindavan is a state of consciousness, right? When Mahaprabhu was cheated after taking sannyas, he wanted to go to Vrindavan, and Nityananda Prabhu cheated on him and make him think, yeah, we are going to Vrindavan. Let's take this boat, and this is the river Jamuna. And Mahaprabhu was so much absorbed in Brajabhava that he believed the whole thing. But he was tricking Mahaprabhu and taking Mahaprabhu to Advaita Acharya's house in Shantipur for everyone in the area to have a last darshan before he leaves as a sannyasi, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And Mahaprabhu realizes, oh, Advaita Acharya, when he meets him, what are you doing here in Vrindavan? And Advaita Acharya said, no, we are, this is my house in Shantipur. Oh, I've been tricked. And eventually the conclusion is more among Vrindavan. Whatever you are, that's Vrindavan. That's what Advaita says. Whatever your mind is, that's Vrindavan. Vrindavan is not necessarily, you may be geographically in any other place, but you are internally, in your inner geography, you are an inhabitant of Vrindavan. So this is the same idea. Going back home, going back to Godhead, attaining liberation, reaching Golok Vrindavan. These are all inner destinations, inner attainments. So someone could be saying, I'm taking a Bodhisattva vow, and that person has attained that inner attainment. I'm not saying everyone who says that is there, but my point is, and that's why I quoted reference from our own tradition, from the Bhagavatam, from members in Gaur Lila, to show there is some point of reference, not necessarily saying everyone should say that, go there, but there's a place for that. Someone could embrace the vow of Bodhisattva, of universal compassion, out of love, no? Because how can you do that? If not, that will be really overwhelming and probably dysfunctional if you really are not properly situated inside. And at the same time, being fully engaged in loving service in every possible direction. So from my perspective, it's not a contradiction, one thing or the other. And by this, I'm not saying you go back to your Dharma center and renew your vows or anything. I'm just saying that there's not necessarily a conflict. And many times, one of the symptoms of having attained divine love is universal compassion, whether it takes the form or the extreme form, if you will, of Bodhisattva, or it takes some other form, but somehow or other universal compassion has to be there. And that's why the first verse I share is Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj is generally described, given as an example of Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti. And then, of course, many will say, yeah, that's Shantarasa. Then we have Dasa Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, all these other developments. But generally, Prahlad is quoted as the foundation. Like whatever Prahlad is showing, this should be a foundation. Prahlad has universal compassion. Prahlad is Abhay. He's totally fearless, right? He's very courageous. He has deep faith. He's very peaceful in the midst of catastrophe, right? He's seeing God everywhere. When his father is asking, where is he? Prahlad is replying, where is he not? Right? Like the other day, someone sent me a video in Spanish, and there was a guy who, it seems like he does like these Instagram short videos, and he's in the street with a big bunch of money. He's speaking with an elder, and he says, I give you all this money if you tell me where is God. And the elder said, I give you double of that money if you tell me where is he not. He's everywhere. No? So again, all these symptoms are shown by Prahlad. Fearlessness, profound peace, universal compassion, seeing God everywhere. That's foundation of pure bhakti. From that, we can go into other details and specificity, but first we have to meet Prahlad Maharaj's standard, if you will. And one of those symptoms is, again, he's looking at the world and saying, I don't want to be liberated by myself. No? I'm suffering for their suffering. That's Krishna's definition of a yogi in the Bhagavad Gita, right? It says, for a yogi, someone else's suffering becomes their suffering. So we shouldn't become indifferent, basically. If we really have love, that will take us in the exact opposite direction of indifference. And it may take different shapes. Again, it may take different forms. Some of those will be the prayers that I've just shared. Some others will be other things. But we have to be very careful that in the name of divine love, serving in Lila, the highest esoteric attainment of Mahaprabhu's gift in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have to be careful in the name of all that, not to become indifferent, apathetic, oriented to liberation as an evacuation plan, because that's not our school. So those will be some thoughts. I hope that helps, Chandrika.
A follow-up question arose. So, I know Haridas Thakur, when he was getting beaten, he experienced it as flowers, So when Prahlad Maharaj is suffering for the sins of others, does he suffer the way, I'll speak for myself, mere mortals suffer, or does he suffer more like Haridas Thakur, where it's like flowers?
Well, again, it's interesting that you bring Haridas Thakur, because before I spoke of Prahlad and say Prahlad in Gaur Lila is Vasudev Datta, but sometimes also Haridas Thakur is described as Prahlad. But my understanding of that is not that literally Prahlad is Haridas Thakur, but there is a comparison drawn between the two, because the two go through very similar dynamics like the ones you just mentioned. Both being beaten, both being like threatened, and both of them being absolutely fearless. So that's my understanding of why Prahlad is said to be Haridas Thakur and Gaur Lila. Well, actually, it's clearly said that it's Vasudev Datta. So yeah, how Prahlad Maharaj underwent all these dangers. There's all these depictions in the Bhagavatam where he's fearless, but the foundation of his fearlessness is deep hope and deep trust and confidence. Rakshi Shyatiti Vishvaso Goptritve Varanam. These are two of the main aspects, if not the two main aspects of Sharanagati, right? Rakshi Shyatiti Vishvaso. I trust that Krishna will protect me. Goptritve Varanam. I'm being maintained by the sweet absolute. So he had this deep conviction, not blind belief, experience, based on experience, deep conviction. I'm being protected, I'm being maintained. And we have all these examples, right? Like, because of his degree of faith, he will be given, for example, a glass of poison. And he has so much faith, he offered the poison to Krishna and the poison turned into nectar. And he drank the whole thing, right? Like even some form of transubstantiation of matter, like Christians will think of the wine as the blood of Christ and the bread, and there's some transformation taking place. If you have enough faith, of course we cannot force and imitate Prahlad. And okay, let's drink it. Let's have a drink of poison after the lecture, and let's test whomever survives. That's the test of your faith, right? Now we will appear on the news like a cult that killed all their participants or something. That's not our line. But those are examples, right? Like that he was absolutely fearless, but the foundation was deep hope and faith. So from that place, yeah, we could say that more than Prahlad experiencing danger or mistreatment, that on some dimension that was happening, on a yet deeper dimension, he was just experiencing the embrace of Bhagavan, which will be like the example, like rose petals being thrown upon him, like that embrace. Like Srila Siddhar Maharaj will give the example of Jada Bharat as well, right? Bharat Maharaj in his birth as Jada Bharat, this Avadut, the third birth, right? Bharat Maharaj, the deer, Jada Bharat. When he's captured by the worshippers of Kali, he's about to be killed in a ceremony by this cannibal tribe. And according to Srila Siddhar Maharaj, in Jada Bharat Maharaj's mind, he was thinking, oh, I'm in a friendly environment here. Again, for us, it will sound too forced for us to just repeat that if we don't have that level of faith. But he was really in tune with, there's nothing to fear. I mean, when you reach certain degree of faith and confidence and love and universal compassion, fear stopped existing, basically. No, it's way behind the bug. And I don't saying this for you to feel bad if you still feel fear and, oh, that's the symptom that I have no faith, no love. It's not black and white, right? It's not like all or nothing. We're all on the journey. But these are ways to measure where we are on the journey. So, yeah, especially in the world we are living, when there is so much great opportunities to go neurotic and be full of fear. You just check the news for 2 minutes or look around at any direction. We need to cultivate deep hopefulness. And there are so many reasons to be hopeful. Yesterday, I finished recording we recorded the podcast with Gauravani Prabhu, and I was the one, not interviewing him. It was not an interview. It was a back and forth. But at the end, the very last thing, he said, "Can I ask you a question, Maharaj?" Yes. So at the end of the day, do you feel anxiety or do you feel hope? Which one of the two win the day? And of course, I'm not saying I'm not feeling anxiety, but at the end of the day, hope wins the day. And we need to live our life in a way that hope wins every single day, even if in between the day, sometimes we feel hopeless, which we do for sure at times. But from the bigger picture, hope and love, and there's so much more powerful forces that all the negativity we may like to bring into the table. So examples like Prahlad, Haridas Thakur, and so many examples of all great saints and great souls are there to pound that post and to affirm that lesson. Like, no matter how much betrayal and collapse and heartbreak and suffering is happening collectively, individually, yes, we are not deniers of that, but still zoom out enough to not lose sight of the bigger picture. All the catastrophes still being held into the wider, bigger embrace of unconditional love. That's the ultimate reality. Everything exists in the context of unconditional love. If we are not seeing that, maybe that means we have zoomed in too much into certain problems, certain situations. Too much zoom in, so we lost sight of what's taking place in the bigger picture. So as much as we need to zoom in at times, we need to zoom out and keep the bigger picture in mind, so hope remains in place as well. Okay, thank you. That was an important point, an important question. You are still raising your hand, Chandrika.
Yeah, and feel free to just say yes or no on this one, but are there incidents where someone is on that path to attain the level of unconditional love and they're not there yet? Are there incidents where having a sort of a leftover Bodhisattva vow from a past life could be an obstacle? Or no?
My favorite answer, it depends.
Got
I
it.
cannot say yes or not. It all depends each case and how each everyone is dealing with that particular circumstance. Yeah, we should be radical personalists and go to each specific case and analyze it separately. Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So before going to the next, raise hands. Let's take a few minutes, and you are all invited to our breakout rooms, churning rooms, breakthrough rooms, however you like to see them today. Dr. Rasa will invite us so we can continue together sharing and churning in community, gaining further insights about this particular topic we've shared so far: compassion, bodhisattva-like, desires for mukti getting in the way, whatever touched you the most in what we've been sharing so far. And we'll see you back in a few minutes. Okay. Welcome back. Sorry for interrupting the surely exciting sharing you were having. Before I move to the next raised hand, I saw that Helga sent a written question in connection to what I just shared, so I'd like to address it for a moment, share a few words, and then we move to the next raised hands. So Helga, we were talking about hope at one point, right? So she asked, how will you define that hope I was referring to? What is hope? And then Badr says, I'm thinking the same thing. So yeah, I appreciate the question, because many times, again, we use words, just words, but what do we mean by the words, right? So there's a lot that we could say. There's not just one possible definition of hope, but in the context of our discussion today, what's coming to my mind is, what's hope? well, we can define hope as some form of like disciplined trust that reality is ultimately meaningful, right? Like unconditional trust that reality is ultimately meaningful, even when the immediate evidence suggests otherwise, right? Even when we are confronted with a situation that seems totally meaningless. No? It reminds me of Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz. Everything seems to completely absurd. Why this is happening? But he has this foundational hope. There is some purpose here. And also something that comes to me, apart from the definition I just gave of hope as disciplined trust that reality is ultimately meaningful, also in terms of imagination, which is, I think, a very important word, and a very important not only word, but reality and even practice, that many times is neglected. That because we think, oh, imagination is just fantasy land, la la la. But actually, imagination is daring to conceive the most necessary possibilities in our life. And only then you can actualize them, only then you can implement them. First, you have to dare to imagine whatever you do in this or this happening, because if it's unimaginable, you're going to do it. So in terms of imagination, also hope could be defined as the capacity to imagine an alternative situation, the capacity to imagine a future, for example, that is not fully determined by the wounds of the past. We are all coming with wounds from the past. How many times those wounds determine how we feel at present and how we project ourselves into the future? And many times that sequence feels hopeless. So hope means, yeah, I'm carrying my wounds, but I can imagine. The capacity is something that we may need to culture, the capacity to imagine, the capacity to hope a future that is not fully determined by the wounds from the past, and remind ourselves, and this may need to take place many times per day, remind myself that I'm held within a larger story than the present moment. Not to neglect the present moment, not to downplay what I may be feeling, but I'm held within a larger picture, as I say before, zooming out, seeing a larger picture, and hope will come. Again, it's discipline. It's a sadhana. It's a tapasya, if you will. It's a type of austerity, a type of daily practice. Because for some of us, it may be easier to be carried to the hopeless side of things, to just be carried by the current and become cynical, hopeless, whatever. So to remain with hope doesn't mean to be a blind believer, doesn't mean to be naive. On the contrary, for me, hope is the perfect balance between naivete and cynicism, right? Hope is right, it's hyper-realism. Right? Contacting reality for what reality actually is, and it will be always hopeful. And we have so many testimonies of great souls sharing that bearing witness to that for us. So anyhow, a few thoughts. Again, we can do a whole seminar of 3 lifetimes about hope, but yeah, we are here to cultivate hope and give hope to one another. As I say sometimes, hope against hope. Thank you for the question. So we'll continue with the next raised hand, that honoring the original order of the raised hands. And I'm seeing Gore is raising his hand, but we'll honor the original order, but we'll try to address each one of them. The next one was from Kanupriya, from Scotland. So welcome Kanupriya, and welcome Shyamasundari next to Kanupriya.
Hare Krishna.
From Scotland, but in Switzerland, I assume. I don't think Shyamasundari is in Scotland, right?
Scotland.
You are in Scotland?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this is wonderful. Sanga starts finally.
Okay, that's how it works. Great.
Yes. Yeah, and actually, I do have a question. I'm with this question since a longer time. It was stimulated with my dad's cancer illness. So I was with my dad for quite a while before he died, and his cancer was all in his whole body. The cancer did eat his bones. He was in an incredible pain. So at the very end, he was with so much morphium and painkiller that he could not stay conscious. He was, I don't know where he was, but he was we could not talk to him anymore. And then I was wondering if someone who walks this Radha Krishna-bhakti path and also has to experience at the end of the life or at somewhere in life such an illness where dying is not quick, where there is this process. And I was wondering, because in Switzerland, we have this organization called Exit. So when you are terminally ill and your doctor is making a statement, it is terminal, nothing can be done, then you can go with deciding, I want to leave my body. So they come and they give you an injection and then away you are. And I talked to several bhaktas about that because I was thinking there might be a point in this illness where you're still aware, you know, you're terminally ill. Is it okay to make this decision now? I want to leave my body as long as I'm aware and I don't have to take so much painkiller that I'm totally not aware anymore. And a lot of bhaktas say, no, that's not okay. It's never, ever okay to end the own life. But what would be okay is to start not eating anymore. Let's make a decision to starve to death and then go through that process, then leave the body. And I was wondering, I was thinking, but this is for me also a way of ending the life, to decide not to eat anymore. It's just a different process, but it's also making the decision. So it's actually our two questions. What do you think about ending the life in such a situation with other bhaktas around, doing kirtan, being aware consciously, then leave the body? Or this other option, not to eat anymore, but that is also a process. This is also not sure how you will be aware at the end. Or is it not okay at all?
Thank you. I think this similar question came some time ago. I don't remember when, but and it's interesting because yeah, I talked about that last year when I was visiting Italy. Because before being in Italy, I was here in the US and I visited New Mexico. And I happened to meet for the first time a Native American elder who had cancer and was really going through a very tough time. He was in his 80s and he was really, suffering a lot. So he decided to, let's say, choose for euthanasia, basically, right? And it was already arranged. He was going to take something on a certain day at certain time. I just met him first time that day, and he was going to take whatever he took, like, I don't know, in 2 months or something. So they were already organizing, like, even a celebration, actually, right? That's how they conceived the transition to the next life. So I knew it was interesting to meet someone that I was meeting for the first time, and I knew I will never meet him again, at least in this particular body and form. And I knew, literally, because generally we don't know, probably this is the last time we will be meeting all. We never know. Generally, we take for granted we'll meet next Saturday. You never know. But in this case, it was for sure that I will not meet him. And then I was told, oh, he's leaving on that day, that time. And I remember that, and that happened to be just right in the midst of a lecture I was giving in Italy. So I remember it is at this day and at this time that he's taking this substance. So I stopped the lecture and I asked, okay, this is going on at this moment. I shared with them what was taking place on the other side of the world, and let's try to all enter into prayer and to accompany this soul in transition and so on and so forth. And I remember most of them agreed, but one person was immediately arguing against the euthanasia. So that was a little bit of an awkward moment trying to start to explain about that when we were trying to enter into prayer. So I'm mentioning that as a reference point to this situation. Of course, the general Shastric statement that many times is invoked is Bhagavad Gita chapter 8 verse 6, right? Krishna says, Yam jambapishmaram bhavam tyajanti ante kalivaram tam tamivaitikam tya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of consciousness or state of existence you are in at the moment of death, that's the destiny you attain. Now, you have to be careful how you read that verse, right? Because if you go to that verse with a very formulaic approach, like a mathematical thing, okay, then it all depends on what I'm thinking about in my very last breath, right? I've seen devotees thinking like that. Now, even if I've dedicated my whole life as sincerely as possible, if in my very last breath a mosquito enters the room and I look at the mosquito and I think about the mosquito, I will be born as a mosquito next lifetime. Like this type of, with all respect, but very childish way of thinking, right? And a lot of pressure, like it all depends on me. Like Krishna is not there for me. It's not supporting. It's all depends of what I'm thinking at the very last moment. No, as they say, sometimes it's this typical question, what if I try to remember God and live for him in my lifetime, but at the moment of death, I forget him? Well, he will remember you, even if you don't remember him. No? Again, not as an excuse to be complacent and lazy, but just to be realistic about how things take place and how reciprocal Krishna is. No? I mean, he's not reciprocal, actually. He's out of proportion in reciprocity. Like Islam will say, you take one step toward God, he runs 100. He doesn't, you walk one step, he runs 100 to you. Not even walks, he's running. So that's the kind of disproportionate mercy we are dealing with here. So I'm saying all this in the context of your questions. Hopefully, in part, this is already replying to this. And I know that what I'm saying, and I will continue to say, not everyone in the Gaudiya community agrees with, like with any single topic, right? Sometimes we have this idea that, being part of one tradition means that we all agree on every single topic. And then in time you realize, we have many different opinions about every single topic. Yes, that's reality. And you have to survive unity and diversity. So, as you said, and I was thinking as you were saying, some people say, no, you cannot take particular medicine or particular substance to die. That's unnatural. You're going against the natural order. You're killing yourself. That's equals suicide. And if you commit suicide, you get into ghost state. Again, that's a very much like formulaic thing. In every case, whomever does that, this will happen. And we are not taking into consideration the specificity of each person's case, journey, state of consciousness. Like the Gita say, okay, what's the last stage of consciousness at the end of your life? That doesn't mean if you think of a mosquito or not. It means how you have been living your whole life. And naturally, that's how you will move into the next chapter. Even if a mosquito passes and you think about the mosquito. So yes, some people may embrace official euthanasia, and some countries, as you mentioned, may offer that opportunity, and some others in the Vaishnava community or other communities will say that's not natural, so you better fast to death. I agree, as you say, that's not much different from euthanasia. Now, maybe you are not ingesting something, but you are stopping ingesting something else. But how much you can make a difference between those two things, right? So for me, it's the main thing is not so much how you do it, whether you do it or not, but what's the background of the whole thing. We generally get stuck in doing. Oh, you do that, that's wrong. You do that, that's right. And we do not consider the attitude internally, the mood, what's going on behind it. That's what makes the whole thing. That's what Krishna looks at. And by the way, the word euthanasia means good dying, right? Which is an interesting point. Euthanasia means good dying, which the implication is not so much kill yourself, but make, if necessary, it's an arrangement to die in the best possible way. It's not that I love to die and I want to kill myself and I hate the world. It's just a practical consideration for the sake of the best possible transition, right? So So this will be basically my thoughts in this connection, right? I'm not someone who will think that's not correct. Of course, in some cases, it may be avoidable, but in some cases, it may be the best thing. Again, depends. It depends, right? It depends. Every case is unique. Every situation is unique. Some people may feel I need to stop this. Some people may be able to push a little bit beyond. Sometimes some people may need to be pushed and continue. Some others may not. Again, it's and who we are to tell about how other people should deal with such a delicate situation, right? So by me saying this, I'm not saying each one should do this or that in their case. You are to decide about that, right? At the end of the day, it's your life. Again, your life, of course, it's not my life and I do whatever I want in a whimsical way, but I'm responsible for the life I've been given, so to say, though I exist eternally, and I'm trying to honor my journey. That's how I will think. I'm trying to honor my journey in this particular body, in this particular chapter, and if there is something that could facilitate a more conscious transition, again, for me, it's in the service of the transition, in the service of my journey. It's not just the act unto itself that determines the thing, but it's the intention behind the act. And that invites for becoming saragrahi, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur will say, essence seekers. Look into the essence, not to the form. On the external, you did this or you did not that. You fasted to death, you took that substance. I don't care in one sense. I care for why you did that, from which place you did that. And that's the most important point for me. And again, I'm talking in general because we are not addressing any specific case. That requires a whole different personalized approach. But yeah, there are examples. Again, I will say that fasting to death was the available form of euthanasia at that time, basically. No, maybe nowadays there are other forms of that, more sophisticated in terms of availability and substance and government providing and this and that. But some of these examples from scriptures, and there are many of them, of people fasting till death and other similar things could be seen as that. And again, it's not suicidal tendencies. It's just voluntary choice for a good dying, with an awareness in those cases of death is not the end. So it's mostly a preparation for the next chapter of the journey. So I don't know if that helps, Kanupriya, or if that's clear.
It helps a lot. Thank you very much. It's really, everything is resonating with what I somehow thought, but I never got it explained so clearly. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's continue with the next question. Sometimes we speak a few breakout rooms, so because I'm seeing a few raised hands. So continuing with the initial original order of raised hands, the next one is Divyangana from France. I don't know if Divyangana is here. Yes, there it is. Welcome.
Haribol, thank you. Yes, actually, I had a question, which is about how to understand what is happening in our spiritual life right now, because I often hear you saying the most opposition to our present experience of God is our last experience of God. And I don't know how to express it clearly, but sometimes it's very, very subtle, because whatever experience you can have, you may be not sure. Is it me? Is it my imagination? Is it true? But at the same time, you need to believe in it because it's the only thing that you have. So, for yourself is still precious, but still I notice that it's very private. People don't speak about it. Everyone keeps this for himself, and it's maybe a good thing. And as I see how also we can all have certain type of attraction. One is very attracted to art, to music, to certain things. One can be very attracted to a story about war and different things that you, if you yourself hear about these stories, it's very hard to relate, but you will relate to completely different thing. So we are all very different, and it's just a question, something that I have in myself. I just feel like sharing also something like with my grandmother also. She's getting older, and I feel like it's very beautiful because she's realizing that she's getting more and more toward her death and the end of her body, but not in a sad way. But she's just we speak sometimes about spirituality, and she's saying like, me now, my only wish is to be in my garden and absorb myself in the contemplation of my garden. And it might seem very simple, but I can feel how deep it is in her heart, and this is something very, very profound in her. And I'm actually, for me, is also very beautiful because I feel that there is some experience that she has in that. And so yes, for some, you know, because also it happens to me in some part of my life. I can feel like, oh, externally I'm trying to do everything good and do the practice like it's told, but inside I say I really don't feel good, and life is difficult. Everything is very difficult, but some other time you don't try to do things as prescribed, and then just everything seems to be around you much more easy and aligning very much more easily. And yeah, so it's and sometimes you might feel also like you also say that Krishna is not somehow somewhere in the future. Is actually here, present with us all the time, and that means he's constantly looking for having an interaction with us. And we might so we maybe we might feel like, oh, like this is an interaction that is going on, but you never know. You can also never know if it's accurate or not. And so yes, I think it's clear what my question is. No, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'll share a few thoughts because there was different things related one to each other. You let me know if I understood the question correctly.
Yeah.
Of course, I will say that there is a difference between belief and faith, as I always try to make clear. Ideally, we are not here to believe things, but to have faith. And that means you have to have an experience. Because if not, if you just believe things because you have to believe, because if you don't believe, you have nothing, then that means that we don't have an actual experience, right? If I have an experience, I don't need to believe in things. No? if I experience Krishna, I don't need to believe in Krishna. I know that he exists. So our practice should be founded on experience, not on belief. And I'm saying that in general because sometimes in every religious tradition, many people, or most people, have more belief than faith. So they believe dogmas and ideas that may be all real, but they lack the experience of them. So if you lack the experience of an idea, that's still a belief. That's not faith. So in time, we are to turn beliefs into faith, so to say. Turn those concepts or ideas that we received and we think I have to accept them to be part of the tradition, to be accepted. It shouldn't be like that to begin with. No, nobody should tell us, you have to accept all this set of dogma and only then you can be part of it. No, it shouldn't be presented as a list of dogmas to be accepted even without experience. But we should be naturally drawn into an experience. That's how faith happens, right? Like Rupa Goswami gives these 9 stages of bhakti. The first one is Shraddha, faith. But before that Shraddha, our Acharya said, comes Sadhusanga. Sadhusanga comes after Shraddha. There's a Sadhusanga after Shraddha. There's a Sadhusanga before Shraddha. Implying you cannot have faith in bhakti if you haven't met someone before who has faith and you have an experience of that person's faith that creates faith in you as a result of that experience. You follow my point? I can say, okay, God exists. That's a concept. I mean, you don't know if that's true or not unless and until you have an experience. So I can speak about God for hours. It can be just mere theory. Now, if I put in front of you someone who has deep love for God, a lover of God, then probably you will have an experience of what it means to be close to that person. And based on that experience, we can develop faith. We can pursue that same experience ourselves. We will feel called to that experience. We'll feel inspired. That's sadhusanga, basically. That it becomes contagious, it becomes irresistible. Sadhusanga doesn't mean a military group that tells you what to do and hands you a paper with all the rules to follow and all the dogma to accept. And if you say yes and sign the paper at the end and don't watch the small letters, you are in. That's not sadhusanga. Sadhusanga means one person even, or a group of them, that they are living so authentically that you feel dragged in that direction. It's irresistible. It's undeniable. It's providing you an undeniable experience, and you cannot at that moment doubt, no, I'm not having an hallucination. It's not my mind. When you have those experiences, it's clear that it has nothing to do with imagination in the fantasy sense of the word, right? Like some mental disbalance. It's something that comes from above all those dimensions. And even if we've had one moment of that lasted for a few seconds 3 decades ago, still that was so real in quality that even if in quantity we haven't had that many more of those moments, that nanosecond of true reality can create a momentum that's still keeping us practicing for the rest of our lives, right? That's why the scripture says sadhu sanga sarva shastraka is lava matra sadhu sanga sarva siddhi. By one moment of real connection, sadhu sanga, all perfection is attained. So doesn't mean that in that moment you already attained perfection, but it means that moment gives you an experience that puts you on a journey that takes you to perfection. And you're already on that way, on that road, on that path. You are being carried by the momentum created by that moment. 1 moment, 2 moments, whatever. So I think it's important to hold on to those moments, not like in its form of toxic nostalgia, because those moments do not belong to the past. Those moments are eternity erupting into our life. So I don't know, I can think of my own moments in that connection. And again, they are grace, they are a gift. It's not like it's my own merit and I earned them and I did so much. They came completely in the most unexpected moments. I was not prepared for them. I was not like, okay, in 5 minutes I'm about to have my lifetime epiphany. No clue about that, and boom, there it was. So too real to deny and too vast to fully understand. Right? That's the paradox. I cannot deny what just happened, but I cannot fathom the full depth of this. So we all need to have those experiences. And if we haven't had them, don't feel bad about it, but also do not force yourself. And I'm not talking only to you, Divyangan, I'm talking to all of us, including me. Let's not force ourselves to just fit in and do what we are told to do just because that's what I'm supposed to do, to be a good boy and a good girl and to fit in, if I don't feel anything about that. Of course, if I feel something, of course. And even if later I do not feel much, let's say, I don't know, some of us may have an experience chanting the name of Krishna. Hopefully all of us. Some deep, powerful experience. And maybe some other days we feel nothing chanting the name of Krishna. That doesn't mean that the name of Krishna became obsolete and is outdated and we can dispense of it. It means that for whatever reason that we may not know, I'm not feeling anything now. It's not Harinam's fault, because I already had an experience with Harinam that proved what Harinam actually. So that experience can take me to continue trying, to continue showing up for prayer, for chanting, even in the moments where I'm not feeling much. So I'm not just saying here, only when you feel everything, do something. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying we need to feel something real enough for us to have real faith and continue our journey. And sometimes we may not feel things, or we may feel things that are not very nice. And that's part of the journey also. Sometimes, someday we may feel miserable. We may feel hopeless. We may feel meaningless. We may feel depressed. We may feel stuff, lots of stuff. And that doesn't mean you are bad, you are wrong, you must be committing some offense. But it also doesn't mean, oh, the practice of bhakti doesn't work anymore, so I'm leaving it because I'm feeling miserable. It's an invitation for introspection. Why I'm feeling this? Why whatever it is, what may be getting in the way? What is trying to get my attention? Sometimes we may need to put our japa mala on the side and pay attention to something else that we need to put our attention on. Something personal, something emotional, something psychological, something financial, whatever. Something related to our body. To us, so something that may sound relative and may sound superficial and may sound not too deep. Okay, but if we don't have, we may need to learn to integrate that first before we go deeper. We cannot just make a quantum leap into ecstasy and chant and be carried by waves of ecstasy. Like I remember a devotee told me some months ago, that was my initial expectation when I joined the movement, to be just carried wave after wave of ecstasy. It's like, well, how long that expectation lasted? It's like, a few weeks. But he continues after 3 decades. So something happened. Something happened for one to continue there. So yeah, again, I think we just need to normalize messiness, normalize moments, cloudy days, not be fatalistic about them, doing something about them, be introspective, and not entering so much into this pattern like, but I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, so why I'm feeling this? No, I heard that many times. I cannot tell you how many times I heard that from the books, but Maharaj, I'm checking all the boxes. Why I'm still miserable? probably because you think that bhakti is a check-boxing exercise. Box checking, sorry. Box checking exercise. Because we approach the practice from and I'm not blaming those who think like that. Again, who doesn't at some point of the journey? No? I have to dress like this, I have to think like that, I have to speak like this, I have to whatever, to comb my braid in that way until it has to be that color, and the veil should go in this direction, because if not, it's not chaste enough. I cannot tell you how many bizarre, surreal stories I've heard throughout the years. I won't give them any public stuff here now. But it's all this stuff of checking boxes and then thinking, okay, I'm checking the boxes, so I'm on the right side, so everything should be great, and then it's not. So what to do then? So that crisis is an invitation to realize spiritual life is not about checking boxes. It's not about being perfect. Who is perfect? Where does Krishna say you have to be perfect? Tell me one verse. No? Krishna is saying, I prefer you to be utterly imperfect, but to be yourself, rather than being someone else's perfection. That's nonsense. Be yourself. And be yourself means be who you are as much as you can be who you are wherever you are. Because that's the only actual possibility. So that's just sheer sanity for your mind, basically. You cannot be something else or someone else. You cannot even be a version of yourself that you cannot still be today. So if you push yourself or bully yourself into a superhero version of yourself, that's neurosis, that's torture, that's violence. That goes against ahimsa. That's why in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, ahimsa comes first, satyam comes later, second. First non-violence, then truthfulness. Because in other words, be truthful in a way that is non-violent. And that starts at home with yourself, how you treat yourself. So try to acknowledge where you are in a way that gives hope. And try to gain acceptance, have the courage to learn to accept where we are, even if it's not as glorious as we thought it will be, or even if it's not at the level of advancement that we thought we will be a year ago. Again, all that many times is our mind games and expectations. In a year I should be in this situation. Why even you are thinking about where you will be in a year? What's behind that? Why you want to be there? What we may be escaping from sometimes. Sometimes we project some over-idealistic versions of ourselves, many times just in the context of spiritual bypassing, because we don't know what the hell to do with who we are now. So we can just only imagine ourselves in a superhero version, gopi version, siddhadeha version, impeccable version, and whenever we fall short of that, misery loves company, as they say. There you have it. So yeah, we try our best, of course. I'm not saying try your worst. We try our best as much as we can, but again, this is not a worthiness competition, right? We are not here trying to impress each other, trying to impress Guru, trying to impress Krishna. It's not about impressing. Or the most impressive thing is to be utterly honest. If you want to speak about being impressive, okay, be utterly vulnerable, honest, transparent, authentic. That's really impressive. Nobody's trying to do that, even in spiritual circles, especially in spiritual circles. So that's basically it. And then we can learn to coexist with these ups and downs of our own journey more realistically. And be grateful for all the real things that have come to our lives, because all these have to be put together. All the grace, all the gifts, all those unforgettable moments, undeniable moments, too deep, too broad moments, that we cannot forget even after decades. And also the messiness that still remains there along with those unique gifts. It's not that one cancels the other. Because sometimes we have this black and white thinking. Oh, if I had such an epiphany, that means I can never go back to this. Why not? Oh, if I went back to that, that means that that epiphany was my delusional mind. It could have never been real. Why not? No. So we need to develop a new way of thinking many times, a more paradoxical way of thinking that can accommodate what otherwise sometimes feels contradictory. So all those things are invitations to grow, to mature, to open our minds, to change our minds, to be transformed. And all that is part of the journey. All that is sadhana. That's what we are. That's our daily job, basically. That's what we are supposed to do. And it's not just again checking the boxes, 16 rounds, 4 regulative principles. This you can be doing all that, and you can be doing all that as the perfect excuse to avoid inner transformation, to avoid these inner things we are talking about. So we do in Argentina. Watch out. Be careful. We don't want to deceive ourselves. So some thoughts, Divyangana, that I hope address your own thoughts.
Oh, yes. Perfectly. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's continue unpacking the implications of what we just said in our breakthrough rooms. If you haven't had any breakthrough yet, hopefully it happens in our breakthrough rooms now. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay. Welcome you all back. Hoping you had some nourishing, intimate sharing. And I can appreciate Gora raising his hand quickly. Thank you so much for that. And we are going there, but there was one hand raised before you, but I promise we'll get to yours. Be patient, please. And that was originally from Jennifer and Vincent from the Netherlands. So we'll go there, and then we'll go to Gora's raised hand.
Okay. Hare Krishna to all of you. Yeah, I have a question. I think I already have it since a few weeks, and today I thought I feel good to ask it. And it's actually connected to chanting. And because in the last years, sometimes I joined some japa workshop or japa retreats, and I chant japa at the moment, not as regularly as I would love to, because we have a small son and sometimes it's a bit distracted, the chanting. But what my question is about that sometimes in these retreats or workshops, I received some kind of, I don't want to say translations, but in a way something to meditate on during chanting. And I remember, for example, in one workshop, there was this translation saying, during the chanting, "Dear Radha, dear Krishna, please engage me in your service, please accept me." And this "please engage me in your service," that's something I can really meditate on. But then in the last weeks or month, I was stumbling a bit about the "please accept me," because I thought I try to accept that Krishna accepts me already, and then I'm praying, "Radha, Krishna, please accept me." And then I'm a bit I have this inside discussion while chanting that I'm thinking why am I discussing now during chanting? Krishna, accept me, but I thought you already accepted me. And then I don't know if that's, I think that's my question. Is there, there are probably many beautiful things to meditate on during chanting, but then I'm at the moment meditating on discussing if Krishna already accepts me, or should I pray to that he accepts me?
You're unconsciously you're asking permission to edit that translation of the Maha-mantra and take that last sentence out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when you say the "please accept me," of course, I immediately thought about the very thing that you then said yourself, right? And as we were saying before, the essence of Sharanagati, right? Sharanagati means surrender. And surrender should be the foundation for our practice. Srila Siddhar Maharaj will say, devotion without surrender is imitation. No? In other words, whatever we do should be done on this foundation of what it means to surrender. And again, there are 6 main symptoms of surrender, or I will say there are 5 angas or limbs of surrender. And there is one that is considered the angi, which is kind of the body that sustains all the other limbs, if you want to use that analogy. No, like we have the limbs of the body, the arms, the legs, but there is the main part of the body that sustains all of that. So the angi, the limb sustainer aspect of Sharanagati is Goptritve Varanam. And Varanam means acceptance. So, and Goptritve Varanam means accepting that I am being maintained by Krishna. And again, if I'm being maintained by Krishna, means he already accepted me. He not only accepts me, he's maintaining me. So the implication is already there. But the thing is, I have yet to accept that myself. So the main struggle is actually us accepting that we are being accepted rather than trying to convince Krishna to accept us. Because if that's the case, it seems just like a play of words, but you are creating a very huge shift in how you are being orienting your practice, right? From I'm already accepted, I'm already loved, I'm already seen, I already belong, from to please accept me, please see me, please love me, because you don't do yet. And you will only do that when I impress you, when I become perfect, going back to the previous answer, right? When I perform perfectly, when I check all the boxes, who knows, whatever, right? And again, we may have practice from that orientation, but hopefully we feel, we understand that there is a deeper way to practice. So yeah, when we sing, when we chant, yeah, engage me in your service, of course, in a similar way, we could say, okay, he's already engaging us in his service, no? Because sometimes if I say, engage me in your service, and again, I have nothing, any of those expressions, right? I acknowledge they may help everyone, but from a strict point of view, if I'm chanting the name of Krishna, that very act of chanting the name of Krishna means I'm engaged in their service. So if by me chanting the name, by me engaging in service, asking engage me in service, it means that I'm not acknowledging that I'm being engaged in service. Do you follow my point? So if I do not acknowledge my current engagement in service, how much that will help me to acknowledge my further engagement in service. If I do not learn to see how many opportunities I'm receiving to engage in service, how many blessings and grace came to my life to actually allow me to engage in service, if I'm not seeing any of that, I mean, I'm going to that extreme, probably that won't be helpful to my further engagement in service. So the best thing I can do to continue being engaged in service is to acknowledge how I'm being engaged in service right now, right here, and to celebrate the possibility of even chanting the name of Krishna, which is in itself seva, right? Because sometimes that's an important point, right? If we do not see chanting as service, we miss the whole thing. And we think, oh, I'm chanting is to get service. And who knows what's our idea of service then, right? Service means someone will come and tell me to wash the pots or to give a donation or to open a temple or to print a book. And I'm not saying those things are not service. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we may hyper-localize service in certain departments and neglect all the service we are already doing. Not by our own merit, again, not in an arrogant way, but just in a humbling way of saying, wow, all of my day is surrounded by service opportunities. And the best way I can do to secure that for eternity is to acknowledge what's already coming right here, right now. So it's similar to what when we say sometimes, Oh, we pray to Krishna, give me mercy, give me mercy. Like if he has not given you mercy yet, right? So many times, rather than asking for more mercy, because we can become addicts, mercy requesters. Like, give me mercy, give me mercy, give me mercy. And Krishna is like, I already sent you tons of that. What are you doing with that stuff? Right? Because give me something, but for what? Right? So I'm not saying that you cannot pray for mercy, but I'm saying be careful of not just falling into a habit of, oh, I'm supposed to be saying this, or I'm supposed to be thinking this while praying, while chanting. And we do it in a mechanical way and we lose sight of all that's going on already. Give me mercy, so much mercy is coming. Engage me in service, I'm already engaged in service at that very moment. Right? So I think it's important to gradually have that shift of immediacy. Rather than I'm doing this to get that at some point, it's like, I'm already there. I'm already engaged in service. I'm chanting the names of Krishna. I'm not calling Radha and Krishna, as I always like to say. This is a very simple point, guys, brothers and sisters here gathered today. When we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, I'm not calling Radha and Krishna. They are already fully present in their names. So I don't need to call them. I need to become aware that they are already there. Right? Like if I'm here and Jennifer is in another room in the house, I may call her, Jennifer. But if you're next to me, like you're next to Vincent, Vincent won't be calling Jennifer because Jennifer is there. So, but sometimes we chant Hare Krishna, we are just like calling someone who is somewhere else, very far away, probably not listening to us, that we may need to impress so they dare to listen to us, and we are totally missing the picture. That's not the teaching. Abhina tvam nama namino. There is no difference between the name and the named, between nam and nami. That's our foundational teaching, right? When someone asked Mahaprabhu once, can you give us a definition of the name, an explanation of the name of Krishna? He said, Tamala Shamala Tuisi Shri Yashodasanandaye Krishna Namno Rudiriti Sarvashastra Vinirnaya. He said, all scripture agree on this. On what's the name of Krishna? Oh, he's dark like a tamal tree and he's the son of Mother Yashoda. That's the name of Krishna. Basically, he's defining who is Krishna. Right? So that's his point. When he asks what's the name of Krishna, he's giving you a definition of Krishna to make the point there is no difference between Krishna and the name of Krishna. So in the same way, we have to be careful if we are being engaged in seva, not to engage in the seva, praying to be engaged in seva, like if we are not doing that already. And someone can say, okay, well, well, at least let me pray to continue to be engaged in seva. Okay, no problem. But also watch out from which place you do that. Because if you're engaged in seva from a healthy place, you don't need to safeguard your future engagement in seva. That's already given, that's done. Name bhakta pranashati, Krishna says in the Gita. My devotee never perishes. If you are honest and sincere, right? So if I'm honest and sincere, service opportunities are always there. Like always we quote Srila Siddhar Maharaj. When someone asks him, Guru Maharaj, can you give me service? Right? Engage me in seva. And Srila Siddhar Maharaj replied and said, change your angle of vision. That was his reply. He didn't say, construct a temple, open a bank account and fill it with money. I mean, all those things could be seva again. But he just said, change your angle of vision. When you do so, you will see everything turns into a service opportunity. So you no longer need to speak in terms of having the chance of being engaged in seva because there's nothing but service opportunities. We need to reach that vision, of course, that may take lifetimes. But in principle, there's nothing but opportunities for seva, for being engaged in service. Of course, we can pray and chant and trying to long for a deeper engagement, because it's not just remaining engaged, because at the end that may also carry the danger of just doing stuff. Like being engaged in seva equals keep doing stuff on the outside, not keep busy. But we can pray for a depth in our engagement, because we may be engaged, but we can always go deeper and invest our hearts more deeply and add longing and add so much flavor to our offering. So we can pray for that blessing, but on the foundation of acknowledging that we are already receiving that opportunity. On the foundation of gratitude, basically. Not on the foundation of scarcity. Like, I don't have this thing, so please give me that thing. No, you have already a lot. And you can, of course, have more, but again, not in the terms of just having, because we are not here trying to have stuff, but to offer all that in love, right? So even when we think about give me service, give me grace, give me ecstasy, give me realization, none of those things should be treated as private property for us to enjoy. Because sometimes I've seen also devotees longing for divine sacred emotions, but still from a perspective of separateness. Like, I will relish all that stuff myself. That's not how it works. We have so many examples in our traditions of devotees being invaded by ecstasy. This is an extreme example, but they are cursing their ecstasy, basically, because that gets in the way of their loving service. So, in one sense, ecstasy is a byproduct of the giving of yourself. It's not just like a candy to relish in eternity. Oh, ecstasy, it feels so nice. I like it for me only. Oh, when we advance, we offer bhava seva. Whatever emotions we have, we put them in seva. So if we are concerned with developing very refined, aesthetic, subtle, esoteric emotions, fine. But because we want to make that an offering for the pleasure of our beloved, not just to boast around town. Look how ecstatic I am, what I'm feeling, my realization. That's childish. So whatever we are after, it's something that can always be offered and translated into an offering, servitude, not private consumption. That's separatism, that's isolation, that's nonsense. That means we haven't learned the basic lesson yet, that we are not isolated beings, we exist in relationality. So whatever comes to me is to be shared in community. I cannot keep something only for myself, because I do not exist only for myself. That's not possible. It's not that that's not healthy. That's not possible. No matter how hard we try, and we try quite hard. So, yeah. So all that related to chanting, of course, don't lose sight of the main discussion, right? So we are already accepted. In one sense, we don't need to say Krishna, rather Krishna, please accept me. Again, someone may say, please accept me, depending from which place you are saying it. There may be some longing, inspiration of humility to be accepted in a deeper level, but not because they are like in denying of accepting us. But that just can be a way of expressing humility and longing. There is place for those words. For me, again, it's not about the words. It's about what's the conception behind the words. But if the conception is, you have not accepted me yet, please accept me, then that's another thing. But if you already know that you have been accepted and you want to be deeply accepted, and you maybe acknowledge you've done things that go against being accepted, and there is some repentance churning in the heart, who knows, so many things can be happening. So there is place for some of these lines. Accept me, engage me in your service, as long as they remain coherent with reality. As long as they don't bring into weird ideas. like I'm not yet accepted, I'm not yet engaged in seva, like to go to those extremes, right? What do you think, Jennifer? Does it help?
Yes, thanks a lot, Maharaj. Yeah, it really helped to especially see the things behind it, like I don't know how to say it correctly. Like, I miss a bit the words, but what is the place where I'm coming from?
Yeah, the background.
The background, yeah. That helps a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you. Yeah, I was reading the other day among a few books I'm reading. 1 second. 1 second. Somehow there are the two of them tied. Of course I'm reading this, which is very big, Gopal Shampoo, but below that was this one, which was difficult to get, which is Consolation from David White. Very interesting book on definition of words, basically, right? He picks words and he just defines them, or basically redefines them. Like, not just books, words, like anxiety, blessing, body, breath, care, death, eclipse, freedom, guilt. And he dedicates one chapter to the word background, related to what you just mentioned. And he makes this very interesting points in that regard, speaking how background, many times we are basically obsessed with foreground, no? With what lies just right in our, let me read one paragraph. Cannot resist. He says, foreground, no? Not background, foreground dominates our lives, is overestimated in importance, and hides the greater context from which it has emerged. Background. The neglect of background is the source of much of our present loneliness and most definitely our present unhappiness. And he continues. But this is an important point. Many times we forget background and we are just too concerned and obsessed with foreground, what's going on right here. But we miss the bigger picture, the bigger context that is holding everything. On the intentions behind the act. The foreground will be what I'm doing. Background is from which place I'm coming. So yeah, that's another way of articulating this same thing. Thank you. Okay, we'll skip one more breakthrough room so we can honor Gaura's hand. He has been raising his hand for the last 2 hours, so maybe he needs some massage on the arm after 2 hours of digital hand raised. And it's beautiful for me to see someone who, not only to see Gaura, but also to see someone who reminds me Sam. And now it's funny because you turn down your digital hand, Gaura, and in my screen, you appeared right below Sam. So I have one next to each other. So yeah, welcome, Gaura. You can unmute yourself and share with us whatever you want to share.
Hare Krishna. I'm just wondering about, because over the last maybe 5 years, then I've had like a lot of my conceptions of Krishna consciousness almost broken down and then needed to rebuild again, including myself. And it feels like almost, I mean, with the devotional community that I'm in at the minute, then there's questions that I want to ask and there's conversations that I want to have, but the last time I attempted to do that, then it was kind of suppressed by a friend of mine. They were kind of afraid by some of the questions I was asking, but I kind of have this feeling that I'm in a completely different place and I'm having to like rethink and rebuild my spiritual life differently, so that it's not based on suppression or self-neglect or trauma and things like that. And yeah, I kind of feel like I'm in this kind of no man's land, and yeah, I kind of sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit alone in a way, because I can't really, some of the things I want to talk about, there's a lot of people that are my friends, but I can't really talk to them. So I'm not really sure how to kind of navigate this particular stage in my journey.
Yeah, thank you, Gord, for sharing that. And welcome to the desert, so to say. I mean, I totally relate to what you mentioned. Welcome to liminal space. I know how unsettling that can feel, how disorienting, how even frustrating at times, or how confusing probably. And I don't want to speak for what you are experiencing. I'm just trying to think of my experience and based on what you just said. First of all, I will say immediately that you are not alone in that. That's why I say welcome immediately. Because we need to feel that we are not alone in that, because we already feel lonely in that situation. So we don't want to amplify that loneliness to the point that it becomes like terrifying, that it's too much. Because at that point, what we'll end up doing? Go mad or who knows what, or go back to suppression, repression, and betraying ourselves and being someone who we are not. So we are back into the circle, so to say, and we don't want to do that. So I think it's very brave of you, first of all, to share that you are in such a chapter, because that somehow gives other people's permission to be in that chapter. Though I know that many will feel threatened by. I mean, I trust not many of the ones present here, because many. I don't want to speak for anyone here, but as much as I know you, I can know that many of you understand this particular situation. But I know that for some it's scary to even think about. Oh, your ideas are changing. You need to recalibrate your whole devotional approach. For many, it's like you must be doing something wrong. You are losing your faith. Some offense is being committed. They may go to fear mode, intimidated mode, trying to explain away the whole thing so they don't have to realize that they will be there sooner or later as well. And I know it's not easy because it is a crisis. But as I like to say, crisis is not a bad word. Crisis means turning point. That's the meaning of the word crisis. Let's normalize crisis in life. We need crisis. We need turning points in our life. Shifting moments when we have to take decisions that, will make changes in our life. And many of those moments, and again, I can only speak from my own experience, but they feel very, disorienting. We are dealing with something new, unknown, lots of unlearning, lots of deconstructing. So it feels more like losing than winning, right? Unlearning, deconstruct. It's not like I'm acquiring knowledge and I'm feeling this. It's more like releasing and shedding skin. But it's very crucial aspect of growth and maturation and surrender. And of course, again, it's confronting because it's an identity crisis, because we may have seen ourselves. I'm this person. I think like that. I speak like that. I belong to this group. And suddenly, at one point, that template doesn't work anymore. It's not. Nobody's to blame. It's what it is, and we need a new way of thinking. It doesn't mean that we are adjusting Krishna consciousness to our whimsical mentality. It means that we may have outgrown a certain version of how we understood the tradition, and we are ready to a new one. We are not betraying the tradition. Actually, we are being more loyal to the spirit of the tradition by being willing to go deeper. Like the conversation between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, right? So Ramananda Roy will say something, and Mahaprabhu will say, Eho bahya aggi kaha ar. That's superficial, go deeper. That's superficial, go deep. So we may reach to a level of practice, it works, nice. At one point is, this is superficial. That means go deeper. Then you go deeper, oh, this is deeper, great. At one point, that becomes superficial. Go deeper. And every one of those may feel like a crisis and may feel like a death, even. Like I'm dying to a version of me, and I'm invited to be born to a new one. And sometimes, again, the environment may not understand that. It's not maybe that they are against you, that they are bad. It's just that maybe they are not in the same stage of the chapter, so we don't need to stigmatize them. But also we need to find people with whom we can express what's going on with us. We cannot also wait for my usual circle of friends to be where I am next weekend, because that may not happen. We cannot force them to be there. They cannot force us to be where they are. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just where everyone is. So we need, in those moments, we may need to find new friends, which doesn't mean reject other friends. Just find people with whom we can talk certain things that we cannot talk with other people, which doesn't mean you cannot talk with the other people what you usually talk with them. It's just, okay, certain things I cannot talk with you. It's fine. I mean, I don't know. I love my mom, but I cannot talk certain things with my mom. It doesn't mean that I'm hiding things from her. I could even bring the topics, but it wouldn't work because there are certain things that I can talk with my mom. And it doesn't mean like, oh, then my mom is not so good, the relationship is not ideal. No, it is as better as it can get. So with some people and friends, you can talk about certain things, and certain other things you cannot talk to them. And we shouldn't be like, in my opinion, rigid about, no, I have to be able to talk about everything with this particular person. Not necessarily. You can have a complementary set of friends, so to say. And with some people, you may be able to disclose certain things that you will know that this other person understands where you are at because they are there or they have been there once or many times. And we, especially in those moments of crisis or confusion or transition from one chapter to who knows what on the other side, especially in those moments that we are very vulnerable, very fragile, we need support and we need validation because we are in a very vulnerable moment. So when we are vulnerable, if we receive proper support, that vulnerability being supported empowers us. But if we are vulnerable and we receive rejection and suppression, we may be traumatized. So it's important to take the proper decision in that moment. So that's what I will say. Of course, I'm not here telling you nor anyone, you should go and speak to that person. That's the group for you, this, that. But yes, to know in moments like that, we need, even if it's one person, again, it doesn't need to be like a massive tribe, but at least one person that we feel and we know, oh, that person gets me and can offer realistic feedback and can validate my journey, not just like spoiling me, like, oh, Gora, yeah, poor you, no, but just validating the experience, acknowledging, yes, this happens, and actually this is supposed to happen, this is meant to happen. And you may feel, well, yes, but feels scary and feels like disorienting, yes, but that's not the end of the game. That will last forever. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Trust me, I've gone through that many times. Let's walk this path together, something like that, right? So we can receive that reassurance in the midst of uncertainty, because there are lots of uncertainty. So we need some foundation of certainty and assurance so we can navigate those complex waters. So, because sometimes by ourselves it's not enough. We need some shoulder in which to rest, so to say, right? Even if it's someone just listening to us. Sometimes we don't need even that much advice, but just that we feel seen and we feel seen, not feel watched, right? That's not the same thing. No, not watch over, micromanage, but seen. No? And we feel listened, we feel received. Many times, if we really feel that in us, expressing our hearts, that's the assurance we needed. Mm-hmm. So that's what I will say. I cannot give you, of course, any magical formula to not be in the situation you are in, because probably you need to be in that situation. And as uncomfortable as that feels, that's a blessing in disguise. And we may need some time to go through that, look back and realize, wow, that chapter that I labeled as tragedy was so necessary, so helpful. But only now I can see that. So we need in the eye of the storm, we need some well-wishers, guardian angels, so to say, around us to remind us of that, to hold space for us, to understand us, and again, for us to be who we are, for us not to repress, not to hide, not to fake, not to impress, not to put masks, not to fit in, just this is who I am now here today and feel seen and accepted. So, and I trust you have those people in your life, and sometimes we need just to turn to them. And again, it may not be the majority, because these situations are not mainstream, are not popular for the masses. But even if it's one person, that's more than enough. And even if the 99% cannot get to you, but you have 1% who gets you, go to that 1% for this. No need to reject the 99%. Just you cannot go with this to them. But yeah, I don't know how do you feel about what I just shared, if it makes sense. Again, I'm talking in general based on what you shared.
Yeah, no, it is very helpful. I think when you were saying about feeling seen and heard and understood, and also there are a few people that I know. I have a friend of mine who's quite he's a Christian actually. He's a Christian, but he also practices Krishna consciousness, and he's quite a mature person. He's quite he listens to he listens to a lot of your lectures and the Free Radical podcast, and he's a big fan of Richard Rohr and similar authors. So it's very helpful to speak to him. You get a little bit more of a mature understanding from him, and Sukava Mataji as well.
Yes.
So there's a few people by Krishna's arrangement that are there that are helping me to kind of understand and process things that have come up over the years on my journey. And no, it is very helpful. And when you're mentioning about don't have rigid expectations that these people, I want to, where I'm at, and I need these people to do it, but they might not be the people, and it might just be a minority of people that Krishna sends that can specifically address certain things that you need to feel held and understood in. So it's really helpful, because otherwise I just feel lonely, and I just feel like I'm going crazy. It can feel a little bit like, am I alone in this?
That's why the very first thing I say was welcome, just so you don't realize you are not alone. Because many times, whether this with this situation or with any situation, the actual problem may not be what's going on, but the actual problem is that we isolate ourselves in that experience, thinking, oh, only I am going through this. No? So that's the actual problem. Right? But when we dare to, like you just did, which I congratulate you for, you dare to share it openly. So immediately that creates this resonance that, oh, you are not alone. And I know many of the people present here, and I know they totally understand what you are saying. So just voicing it out takes us out of isolation. And when we voice it out, we realize some other people is like, I know what you're talking about. I've gone through that myself also. I understand you. I can connect with you. So then suddenly you realize, oh, I'm not alone in this. And that creates community. But first we need to share it. And of course, to share it, we need to feel some safe space that we can share it without being ostracized and scapegoat and crucified or who knows what. So I trust that you felt enough safety today to dare to share it. And hopefully also we as a circle, though it's not a 3D circle, it's an online square stuff. Even with our presence, we were able to listen to you, to receive your testimony, to empathize with that whole space, and to make feel, you are not alone in this. Although sometimes we will feel lonely. and normalizing that also, but not to the point that it's becoming too much. Then that may be a symptom that we need to disclose it again, to share it again, and to receive feedback again, and be heard and received all the times we need, all the time, especially in moments of need. We may need that more often than we may need in other times, and it's okay. Real friends will be there for us whenever that's necessary, right? So thank you for bringing
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
And we will invite you for a closing breakthrough room. I think this topic is very relatable to continue churning together and sharing and creating empathy and holding space for each other. Because again, if you have never gone through any of that, fasten your seatbelt, it's coming on your way. It's part of life, it's not bad. It's a cycle of nature to create growth. Order, disorder, reorder, order, disorder, reorder. So we'll go for a few minutes to our breakthrough rooms and then return to close our session today. Okay, there you are. Welcome back. Let me take it all in, seeing your smiling faces. Yeah, seems it was a good sharing. Thank you so much to each one for joining today and always, and looking forward to our next sharing next Saturday. Meanwhile, take care. Have a blessed closing of the week. Let's stay in touch in whatever we may be of support to each other in this beautiful journey we are navigating together. Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavan ki jai, Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasinubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.